everybody, welcome back to our English grammar lessons. So today we're going to talk about a topic that is very important also for beginners. It's important for exams, but it is also extremely useful for talking, okay? Also using a basic language. I'm talking about the modal verbs. I will divide this topic into two videos, this one and the following one, because I want to talk about modal verbs which express possibility, ability, or permission, or hypothesis in this first video, while in the next one we're going to talk about duty, about something I must or have to do, okay? So, first of all, what is a modal verb? This is a definition that is common to both videos actually, okay, because the definition of modal verbs is the same, and it is: modal verbs are verbs that support and introduce other verbs in the base form. This is very important. There are many verbs actually that introduce other verbs, but almost every time we have the preposition to of the infinitive for the second verb, for the performing verb. I'll make an example. I want to see you, okay? I want obviously introduces another verb which is see, but it isn't in the base form, it is the infinitive form, okay? I want to see you, okay? This is something that doesn't happen with modal verbs. I will say I can see you. I will never say I can to see you or anything like this, okay? So, important, modal verbs are the only verbs that introduce other verbs in the base form. Base form is obviously infinitive without to, without the preposition to. Then, second element, they don't use the s as the third person singular, never. They don't add s, obviously, okay? I say I can, you can, I will never say she or he cans. This is something quite obvious, okay? Then, third point, they act, they behave as auxiliary verbs, as if they were auxiliary verbs. What does it mean? While forming, okay, an interrogative or a negative form, I will never use an auxiliary, like for example to do, or the verb to be, or eventually have, okay, because modal verbs act as auxiliary verbs. They do everything, okay? They move before the subject for a question, for an interrogative form, and they we can say they are put together with not, with the negative word not for a negative sentence, okay? So this is also very important. Then there is this four point, which is a little tricky. We're going to talk about that in detail, and this is very important. Modal verbs don't have, okay, some forms, some tenses, okay? Some tenses, many tenses actually don't exist. They are completely lacking. So we have to use other forms in order to substitute modal verbs in the tenses where they obviously can't be conjugated, okay? So let's start with one of the most popular modal verbs, and this is can, okay? This is can. Can expresses both ability and possibility. So possibility, obviously, because it, okay, I can go out, okay, I can go out means that I have the possibility to go out, but it expresses also, this is very important in English, ability. The ability to do something. I can speak English, okay, it doesn't mean I have the possibility to speak English, it means I am able to speak English. I can swim, okay, I can whatever, okay, I can run very fast or whatever. This is an ability I have, okay? So ability and possibility. We have just two forms of the verb, okay, which is can. Can is the present. Pay attention, okay? When we look for can on our vocabulary, we will never find to can, okay? Some students ask me that. To can doesn't exist because can doesn't have the infinitive, okay? It has only the present form. So obviously we find it just first person of the present, okay? There is no to it, obviously. So the present form and then could, okay? Pay attention, especially for Italian speakers or native speakers, or Spanish native speakers. I don't pronounce the L, okay? I could. So could is, or better, it translates both simple past, okay, so an action that is finished, concluded in the past, doesn't matter whether it is a very close action or very far, okay, action in the past, okay, doesn't matter, it is just a finished, concluded action, okay. You find this explanation very in detail and in very detailed way in our lesson, which talks specifically about simple past and about present perfect. Then simple past and could translates also the present conditional, okay, the present conditional, so both forms. So, at the end of the day, we have just three possible tenses, okay, present, simple past and present conditional. These are the only tenses I can translate with the verb can, okay. Obviously, I can use them, as I said before, we can use it for interrogative or negative forms without adding any other auxiliary verb. For questions, I will just put the can or the could before the subject. Can you go? Could you go? Okay. And for the negative form, I just put not. So can becomes cannot, okay, and cannot is often or almost always today shortened in the form can't. So pay attention to the verb, to the negative verb can't, okay, it's written like this. You can ask me, why do you pronounce it can't and not can't, okay, so obviously you can find the pronunciation can't a lot. In movies, for example, it is quite typical of American English, okay? But if you have to talk British English, or you have to use this verb during an exam or whatever, so it's better if you use the original pronunciation, which is can't, okay? So cannot is the form and can't is the shortened form, okay? Can't exist, obviously, but in another context. And then could becomes couldn't, okay, for the negative form, obviously, in the same way. Now, what about the other tenses? Obviously, we can't use a verb that expresses ability or possibility just in three possible verbs. I have to be able to use a future or present perfect or whatever. So I have to use another form that substitutes can, and that can be actually conjugated in all the tenses I want to express. That form is be able to. It is here, be able to, which means actually be capable to do something, okay? But the real meaning isn't important anymore because we can say that this form, okay, is used all together just in order to substitute can. The part able to, and then I have the performing verb, is always the same, it doesn't change. The only part that changes is the verb to be, obviously, that can be conjugated, okay, in any possible tense. So, let's make a few examples. If I have to use a present perfect, for example, okay, I have been able to go. I have been able to go. So, able to is always the same. Then I have my performing verb, in this case is go, but I could use any other verb, okay? The only part that changes is the verb to be. it is conjugated exactly at the verb that I am using, in this case present perfect. What is the present perfect of the verb to be? Have been, auxiliary verb to have, and past participle been. Okay, so I have been able to do. She has been able to do, obviously. Okay, this is for the present perfect. Same goes for the future. Future with will, for example. I will. We know that after will we have the base form of my verb to be again. So I will be able to go. You see that able to is always the same. You see that I have my performing verb exactly after able to. And you see here in the blue circle here that the part I have to conjugate is just the verb to be. Future. In this case, future with will be. Okay? Another example, actually it's not very used, but it's useful for you to make exercise and to understand, okay, the mechanism we are going to use here is the gerund, okay, the ing form. I like being able to, okay, this is not very used actually, but I could say, okay, I like being able to speak English, okay? I'm happy that I am able to do that, okay? It's possible. We don't use it very much, but it's possible as far as grammar is concerned. So, also in this case, I like, we know that after the verb like, we have always an ing form, we have always a gerund, so I can say I like can. Obviously, canning doesn't exist, and so I use the form be able to. Also in this case, I conjugate just the verb to be, okay? And the ing form of the verb to be is being. So I like being able to whatever, okay? And so on. So the trick, the mechanism is just conjugating the verb to be, okay, and then able to is always the same, and then after it I have the performing verb. Pay attention to the simple past, because in the simple past we have, okay, the past form of the verb can, okay, we know we have could, but sometimes we still use was, I was able to go, or you were able to go, or to whatever else, because they have two slightly different meanings. I'll make an example for you. If I say, when I was a child, okay, I could run very fast. That was a general ability, something I was able to do. Okay, something that I could do, a general ability. But if I say, oh well, the building was on fire and I was able to run fast and to get out and to escape in time. In this case, it's not a general ability. It's not that, it doesn't mean that I was generally able to do that. I was able in that specific moment, okay, and for a specific reason, I managed doing something because I was able to do something else. In that case, I don't use could very much. I'd rather use I was able to, you were able to. So could for general abilities in the past, was or were able to do something for specific abilities in specific moment where I needed that skill. Okay, then I have here a second verb that belongs to this video, okay, because it belongs to the idea of possibility, okay, not duty as the other modal verbs we're going to talk about in my next video, but possibility. But in another, okay, from another perspective, okay, it means hypothesis, so a possibility because something may be that way, or permissions eventually. I'm talking about the verb may. May is the present, exactly as can, okay, it doesn't have infinitive form. Might, pay attention, might isn't exactly like could, okay, because could has two, it can express two tenses, simple past and present conditional. Might just one tense, which is the present conditional. It doesn't have simple past, okay. So as for may, okay, first of all, when I say hypothesis, I use may when I for provisions, okay, when I imagine something but I'm not sure. If you think about that, we talked about hypotheses also when we were talking about the future with will. And in that case, we said that we used the future with will when we were quite certain that something could happen. But obviously it wasn't a planned action, so I couldn't use be going to. So in that case, I could rather use will. Now, may is also an hypothesis, but when I am not so sure, okay, or better, I can also be sure, but I'm not as sure as an hypothesis with will, okay. And might, okay, might, I use might when it is also less possible, in my opinion. So, will when something probably happens, may when something can happen, and might when something could even happen, but I'm not so sure it will. I open the window in the morning and I see clouds and dark clouds. I say it will rain today. It's a provision. Obviously it could also become sunny, okay, but it's a general provision, I'm quite sure. If I open the window and the sky is uncertain, I can say it may rain today. I don't know. But if I open the window and the weather forecast said that it should have been rained, but I can see a huge sun, okay, in the sky, I say it might rain. But honestly, I see no evidence. I see no sign of raining. Okay, so will is something very certain, in my opinion, always. May is more neutral, and then might is, we can say, a remote, a very slight possibility. Okay, now may and might have the same, obviously, the same characteristics as other modal verbs, but they don't have something that can has. They don't have a form like be able to, okay, that is able to, that can actually cover or be conjugated in all the tenses where may and might can be used. So what can I do? So for the past forms I can do something, because I can't change may or I can't change might, but I can change the infinitive, okay, that is supported, that is introduced by them. And instead of a present infinitive, I can use a past infinitive. Past infinitive is always formed by the verb to have and the past participle. Pay attention, don't ever, don't mix them and don't think that it is too similar to the present perfect. It is different because both have the verb to have as an auxiliary and the past participle then. But the present perfect, the verb have, okay, to have in the present perfect is conjugated, while the verb to have in the infinitive form is always the same because it is infinitive, obviously. So in this case I can change the infinitive, the present infinitive, and shift into a past infinitive. I may go or I might go becomes I may have gone or I might have gone, okay? I may have seen, I might have talked, and so on, okay? It can translate past forms, and for the other forms I can do anything else, but going back to the be able to form, and somehow I can land sorry, I can borrow, okay, one of the forms of can, okay, and use them also for may, even if they don't have exactly the same meaning. So, this is all for the moment about the modal verbs concerning ability, possibility, hypothesis, permissions, okay? We're going to talk about modal verbs that express duty in my next video. If you have any doubts, any questions, I'm just here for you. If you find it interesting, please subscribe my channel, and see you soon again for the second part of the modal verbs. See you very soon, and goodbye.